This discussion here in studio, we're joined by Donald Rabala, an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. Thanks, Donald, for joining us. So, what are the possible outcomes from the status conference?
I want to begin by stating that the prosecutor has already admitted that she doesn't have enough evidence to take Uhuru Kenyatta to trial. And having said that, the status conference was basically set up to find out what investigative steps the prosecutor has made so far. She has alluded to the fact that the Kenyan government is not cooperating with her office, and from that standpoint, we should be able to find out what the judges will decide, having had the arguments by both parties. The first scenario is where the prosecutor would ask for time to investigate the President Uhuru Kenyatta afresh, or on top of what has already gone on. And in that case, the judges will have no alternative but to give her the time that she's requesting, depending on what the defense counsel has said. The second scenario would be that the government officials, because they have been accused of not cooperating, not being compliant with the office of the prosecutor, they will be called upon to show cause why they are not cooperating with the office of the prosecutor. Yet, as it were, they are still member states to the Rome Statute. The third scenario, and this is the one that is likely to have an effect, if at all, is where the prosecutor will hang up gloves and say, fine, we are withdrawing this case, we don't have sufficient evidence, we don't see a situation where the Kenyan government is going to cooperate with us, seeing as it is that the president and the deputy president are both accused persons within the ICC courts. And
maybe for now that may not really be an option that the ICC is looking at, or the prosecutor, but just let me ask, is there a precedent where a case has been put on hold to allow time for more evidence to be gathered?
A case in point is the case of Joseph Katanga, this DRC case. Recently, it was supposed to come for a ruling on 7th, that is on Friday.
Yeah.
It has been postponed to March 12th. What happened in this particular case is that we had massive withdrawals of witnesses, we had interference of witnesses, we had non-cooperation by the government of the day. And to that extent, the prosecutor at that time moved the court, and the judges were convinced that this is a case that warrants adjournment of the trial until such time that further investigations can be carried out, more evidence can be gathered, so that the Joseph Katanga is taken to trial. It has taken about 9 years right now.
Right.
And the length of time more so accounts for the period of time when the prosecutor was conducting the investigations.
And African countries have been quick to point an accusing finger at the court, saying that the court has been targeting the continent, it's been conducting short investigations. So should President Kenyatta's court be thrown out, do you think this perhaps vindicates those allegations?
I don't think so. For those who have been following these trials from the very beginning, would know, and those who've been following the trials actually against African leaders would know that 90% of the trials facing the African leaders were self-referrals. The African leaders themselves went to the ICC and say, we want these cases investigated. We want these people tried before these very courts. Kenyan situation is a little different. We took ourselves there. The Kenyan parliament rejected the mechanism of local trials. So they took themselves there. And to that extent, the issue of Africans being targeted will be put to rest. On the question of the shoddy investigations, the ICC occupies a very unenviable position. Number one is they don't have their own investigative authorities within the member states.
Right.
So basically they have to rely on the institutions that exist within a country. So like in the Kenyan case, they relied on the NGOs, they relied on intermediaries. And of course, we don't know to what extent the intermediaries and the NGOs, the role they played in coming up with the kind of evidence they came up with. But essentially, we will have to look at everything from that background, and from the background of the fact that we are dealing with a sitting president who has immense powers, immense influence. Witnesses have withdrawn, evidence has been tampered with, they are not cooperating. So it will not be an indication that the investigations were indeed shoddy. But looked at it contextually, it will be it will be viewed at differently.
Right.
Yes.
All right. We have to leave it there, Donald. Thank you so much for those insights. Here in studio live with us was Donald Rabala, an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. And